Hey, what's up, Ralph?
Get it out of my book.
Yeah, bro. Cool, bro.
Yeah. Every week I say I must
Are you walking yet? You going on the march?
I never do.
Let them come to you, man. Let them come to me.
In 1984, not the book, the year, there was an interview with the man who's he works as a communist in India. And he is interviewed there, and he actually tells you what's happening with the subversion, communist subversion in the West. Back in 1984, and what's his name again? Yuri, I'll get it, although my notes... Yuri Brezhnev, I think. Brezhnev. I've got it in my book somewhere. And it's, he's absolutely brilliant, because it'll tell you exactly what is happening now in our society. Where's my book? And now the great thing, where I've probably left it at home, I doubt it though. It could be here. Oh, good. Not good. Okay, well I'll have to go on to something else while I find that. And this is, I have to take this off. I'm going to end up having a stroke with this keeps happening. So it's interesting stuff. Yes, Yuri Brezhnev. And if you can find the long version to that interview, it's absolutely fantastic. And he's talking about the tricks that the communists used against all of these politicians and these renowned communist writers in India back in 1980. This is before the wall came down. So they were trying to get into India, as communism does try to get into everything, as it's now in our society. Oh, I know where it is. I hope. Yes, so I'm just after the word. I'm going to make a little poster, hopefully this week or next week, with the information on it, because it is the most incredible thing, and it joins together all of this kind of stuff on what we're looking at, where everyone's now focused on transgenderism. In the men's rights movement, we got transgender people, and they say stop using us as a hammer to bloody beat people with. There's a small population of transgender people in the world, and they're being used by this. But of course, if you go to university now, you won't know who's who or who's what, because they've been taught to be. And we now have I don't know how many sexualities we must have now. It goes into the hundreds. It's absolutely stupid. And even a rainbow unicorn is a sexuality now, and it has been for some time. And if you believe any of that, you need to get out of university. Yuri Brezhnev, 1984, it was the KGB interview. He's a KGB defector, and he went to Canada. And he talks about what happens in societies, what communism does. First of all, the subversion of the society. Then the destabilization of the society, the demoralization of the society, and then you put the society into a crisis. And if you look at the Red Guard in China, which were the students, and how they went out, Mao's people, how they went out and they murdered their own relatives. They murdered school teachers. They went out and on a scale that's unbelievable.
So do you think that giving us a vote and then not doing what we voted is part of the causing unrest so that they can then get their...
Yes, and also putting people against people. And I think not only are they're involved in the left fighting the right, they're also involved in the right fighting the left, some of them. So whenever I read anything which is either left or I don't really read the left stuff, it's shoved down your throat. But the right stuff, if I read, I always think about it and don't take it as legit, because it goes both ways and with it. And the amount of violence that communism has done, and this guy, you've really got to look at that interview. KGB defector, 1984, and get the long version if you can, because it's absolutely brilliant. He's now gone, and he's supposed to be dead or gone into hiding now. He was in Canada. And he was disgusted by it, because they would even do, when they were dealing with top people in India, they would get them drunk for quite a few days at parties, and he would be taking something so the alcohol didn't affect him quite well. And then they would stop serving drinks. And they did this it was a manipulation of these people. And a lot of these people were very proud of their communist book they've written in India and things. They were fools. Because he said those are the first people, these activists are the first people that the communists get rid of when they actually come into power. And when we look at some of the radical left wing, I mean, he was
And that was a little that was a Smith genocide.
How slavery.
That was a Smith
Still do this here, and you stand here, and you stand there.
I'm not sure
international slave trade.
It's not illegal to shoot them, it's just cowardice. You should just fucking shoot them anyway.
no, it is illegal. You get locked up.
That's a left-wing t-shirt as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be illegal, it's just immoral. Just fucking just...
Hey man, how you doing?
Cool, bro. Yeah. Right.
So essentially, I absolutely agree with the premise on your hand.
What are you talking about, Ralph?
I think they're talking about Trump or the Hatters.
Having a discussion about sort of what happened during the slave trade and Britain, transatlantic slave trade, and he was giving information about how Britain ended that.
Okay.
I don't like to talk about the Abolition movement.
No.
See that man there? I think they will, right? In front. In front. I'm still doing this day. Slave trade.
You say Arabs?
It's wrong. It's wrong.
Slavery is, yeah, it's not. It's not my favorite thing.
I'm a human being. I'm new human being.
I bet Trudeau's the son of
Well, see the pictures.
He looks exactly the same.
Related to Pierre some value between 1 and 0.
Well,
I don't think it's there's like a probability. Schrodinger's
No, it's the old case. All these people in America who turn around and give us your guns, we only want the bump stocks. You know they don't want it. It's a case of, right, you want the guns, you go take them from the guys with them. See how well that is. I'm the government.
they're still very early. Late to the game. They like Sweden. I mean, the Yellow Jackets, they made it to the French. It's ready to Belgium and Germany. We might see a few yellow vests here.
There was a guy who had a high vis that was rolled up. So I have quite a lot of things. There will be people who start taking out the high vis. That would be a rather nice present.
Amy's still alive.
Well, Josh, darling Josh, no thanks for that.
The interesting thing is, like, why I think it's necessary to have an Anglosphere Union is that the Antarctic is melting. You know, that's self-evident. Whether it's man-made, whether it's not, it doesn't matter. It is melting. And there are going to be a lot of opportunities for that, because normally when ships are trading to get from Europe to America, they'll have to go through the little straits of Gibraltar. But now, with the Canada's ice melting, it's going to open the Northwest Passage, which means it's going to cut the costs of trade in half, put some distance quicker.
You have to bear in mind that this also works for the Russians and Chinese as well.
Yes.
And all of the Chinese attempts to basically buy the western part of Canada.
Yes. But here's the thing, because America isn't really happy with this, because Canada considers the Northwest Strait as their sovereign waters, but America and other countries want it to be international waters.
Monroe Doctrine.
Where do you stand on that?
I think anybody with a set of armed forces like that is able to at least put any of their opinions on the agenda. The Chinese have actually played the politics thing rather interesting. They've evidently been monkeying around with India to distract them while they
know India's going to rise, so they're going to try to.
They were doing the One Belt One Road thing over the Himalayas and distracting their attention.
And the debt traps all along these islands and.
Unlike when we were there, we didn't have enough people, so we had to train Indian engineers and accountants and lawyers and professionals.
And the British did their special.
And I mean, we exploited, but it was by the time you sort of finished the end of the 19th century, the version of imperialism matured rather, and become rather less viciously pushed.
Yeah.
Whereas because the Chinese don't have a particularly...
They don't give a shit.
Well, they don't have a
history
of colonization.
Yeah, it's funny why China's suddenly now becoming a
and when they go into Pakistan, they will be treating the Pakistanis like captives.
Yeah. Especially the Africans, they're going to like treat them like slave labor.
They don't need any African labor. They sent 200,000. That's true. Engineers from China. But the Chinese guys will suddenly have wives.
Yeah.
They'll marry the African women.
Yep.
Which basically flushes all of the African men north into Europe.
That's going to be such like hierarchy. You know what I mean? Saying like, oh, we're the mixed race. You know, you.
Well, they're not white men, so they're not bastards.
Yeah, but no, that is a scary thought because obviously I've seen like the photos of how much these Chinese workers they're completely neglected.
Well, the thing is, when the Chinese go into Africa, they don't insist any cultural development in the cities.
No,
or the development.
Let us renovate you.
They say, right, you guys sit there. We're going to pay your head of state millions of pounds to shut the up. We're going to extract all your raw materials and send them back to China, and that'll be great. We'll put in roads so that we can get to our mine, but we're not interested in building up your physical infrastructure, much less your cultural infrastructure. It's
almost like the reverse of what we did. We colonised them and then renovated them.
It's a slightly dark observation that in about 40 years' time, one wonders whether there's going to be any nostalgia for the European colonisation.
That'll be so jokes.
That would say, I mean, it's dark.
We had it better with the whiteys, you know.
Well, the question is there going to be any terrorist training camps for African men to go back into the Congo and southern Africa to reclaim the infrastructure and the country? I think the Chinese have very heavily underestimated how expensive it is to colonize. It's not as much fun as it looks.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I do think they're digging themselves in a hole in some regards.
Well, One Belt, One Road is fine so long as everybody is singing from the same hymn sheet with you. But the moment anybody starts trying to oppose you,
get down before you fall down.
The moment anybody starts trying to oppose you, as the British found in the 1860s after the long lives, it becomes very, very expensive. The only thing more expensive than having a fence around your empire is not having a fence around your empire. Basically, the reason we decided to let everybody have all of the empire back was because after World War II, America said we want access to your markets. We go fine. Well, if we can't have exclusive access to it, everybody can have it all back. Now, it took a little while, and obviously I am putting. Now, this is one of the few things that we learned from feminism. You never listen to advocacy data. You have to do your own. And I am presenting this as advocacy data. But in terms of with the Palestinian thing, where you have a whole bunch of people running up the shore, and there's a whole bunch of paratroopers there, and they say, right, well, this is the moment we find out whether there's any difference between us and the Germans. And they just if you're going and you're doing satyagraha as Gandhi against the British, it works. Because there's at least some residual minor sense of guilt and shame there. Satyagraha against the Germans in 1930, the mid 1930s, didn't really work. You have to pick your pacifist strategies based on who you're being pacifist against. If you're being pacifist against the British, go on then.
That's just a general truth. Ethnocentric cooperation always beats humanitarian cooperation by about 0.2% in all game theories. So humanitarianism is just a failing strategy against ethnocentrism.
But if you
fringe strategy.
It's
a fringe strategy.
Yeah, it's a boundary strategy. And the moment the party that you're interacting with changes their December down. As I say, like, you know, Nazis, Gandhi against the Nazis, that's going to be a very short discussion.
As it was squadrons of Indians that were loyal to the Nazis.
Well, they just turned their swastika around the world.
Exactly.
Indians are very
we're Aryans as well.
One of the strongest ethnicity in the news. There's no liberal rights for others.
But the idea of them inviting the Japanese to expel the British.
Oh, there were at least 17 different translations of Mein Kampf in major languages.
Well, because there are so many languages.
But no, typically there's such an uptake for ideas because they rest hierarchy and structure.
Well, that's the thing.
State of nature.
Well, there's also this.
This is the sort of discussion that history classes should include.
Oh, but history is just ideology.
Yeah, stop nitpicking.
I had to look.
I thought it was just important to draw the point that because modern history teaching has become so lobotomized. I mean, there are people who thought the suffragettes and the suffragists are basically the same group.
Thinking from the 1400s.
I mean, the idea that 100 years ago, the people who were handing out white feathers here were all the same, rather than suffragettes who wanted votes for rich white women, not the stinky ones.
Just like your middle class liberal feminists.
People don't realise if it wasn't for the women's rights protesting, which also gave birth to black rights and gay rights. You know, they all fed off the same thing. You know,
Statement of Settlements in Senegal in 1848. They actually had some fairly salty things to say about what would happen if black Americans got their civil rights before women.
But you see, this is a natural experiment that had to play out. So I would say that's already way downstream of the Enlightenment by the time we rolled out individual rights for all. And Nietzsche and Kant already had predicted the end of the Enlightenment. The counter-Enlightenment had just come. And this is the dying end of the counter-Enlightenment. Because when you give everyone a straight down
the Roman Empire.
then you have to return to hierarchy.
Depending on how long a cycle will be, this is the end of the age.
Okay, yeah, you can make that straight. I'm just the counter-Enlightenment. I'm a neo-reactionary. I just want the Enlightenment to be very quickly. Right? I just want to get to the conclusion that equality leads to nihilism. Like give everyone individual rights as an individual free agent running on a liberalism, they wander around being nothing of any value to themselves and anyone else. They need order and structure.
I do think civic nationalism is pretty weak.
Civic nationalism is treachery. It's a treachery to the ethnic group.
I mean, I understand if there's like, obviously I want to live in a society where we based on meritocracy regardless of your skin colour, but in the end of the day, if this country was founded by a particular group, it needs to stay majority with that group because that's the history of their people.
Well, you can look at a modern way without being inflammatory and say, okay, suppose I understand human biodiversity and I want to protect the species, then I want something like a genetic bill of rights. And this little island has a genetic cluster, as does Somalia, as does half of the distribution, and there's nothing wrong with protecting a genetic cluster in the island. It's not a hegemonistic position. Now, I'm a neo-reactionary right. I think that's a pussy liberal position, but I'm glad that protection of genetic. I like something much better than that.
We treat animals in like...
I find my socially engineered liberal instincts are actually quite useful because when I start coming across people who have argued from first principles and worked the rationality through, I find myself a little uncomfortable in their company. There are other people who have gone through a similar learning curve, and I have to think, well, hang on, they've gone through the same thought processes, and they've rationalized, and they've worked the arguments through and come to a similar conclusion as me, and I'm uncomfortable in their company. I accept the logic as self-evident, or at least that's compelling. Certainly descriptive power. And even though I may not like the solutions that I'm presenting,
something has changed. But something hasn't changed. I'm a technocratic, I'm a geek by training. And everything changed by the turn of the century when we handed over Western logic, by which I mean we handed over Bertrand Russell, Whitehead, and the end of Wittgenstein, down to the new world of new science. And Alan Turing created the theory of computation, which is theoretical computer science by training. We now know that the basis of the new right, post-Enlightenment, must be on what I consider to be neo-reactionary realism. So So I recognize there's physics that creates the world, that creates genetic structures, that creates society. Enter racialism. I say the same for gender and Bible. And it's only from those structures can we return to that balance of right and left and says, there are optimal ways to structure and order society. We've known these in all ways, theistically, we've known them in all ways. And this new world order, we've been on blind alleys, we've made terrible mistakes, but fundamentally to go onwards and upwards in a course, a reactionary counter gambit to the Enlightenment is to move higher towards the stars. We have to accept certain truths, be them on neo-realistic facets, race-related, biological experiments, capitalism and capitalism. We cannot pretend anymore we can't not call something what it is.
Empirically, also you have to say what works.
But now we have had
National Socialism doesn't work. National Socialism doesn't work. But doesn't mean nationalism doesn't work.
Postmodernism doesn't work.
Hey, big up Queen J.
Communism, the Marxist thing is done.
It wasn't real communism.
People can confuse the word reactionary from necessarily just being literally to return to or react backwards. It can be reacting forward by taking a breathe and a step to consolidate what you have before you go forward. So you say nationalism, no. The basic default safety spaces, can we go back to safe national boundaries? Can we figure out what's next? But what's next will be post-national. Go back to what we worked before, which was national.
Then if you're going to evolve from there, it needs to be
better.
Well, certainly epigenetic.
Yeah, but I'm not saying like, I only care if this country is made out of mostly white people. It's like, no, it needs to be Anglo-Celtic people.
No. So there's no difference.
It needs to be like the experimental method. You check it, you gather your data, you do this survey after the study.
With 8 billion chimps, and we should have our DNA wired into a single genome database where we can run genetic code, right? No point replacing blacks and browns with a bunch of white Poles. You're still going to run English, right? The Poles are going to make, okay, it might be genetically, culturally close, but they're still not English, right? They're still Polish. So it's not just race. Obviously, you can't replace them with a bunch of people from Bangladesh, but they're definitely not English, right? So you have to be, so that next generation must be, like you say, empirically measured, continuous feedback to the scientific method that says you are a genetic structure. In the case of your Anglo-Saxon, gets most of the ethnicity all the way from Holstein, and you can see that genetic structure coming through. That has a particular value in an ecosystem. Now it doesn't usually seek value to 48 years out. No. I mean, we have to shoot those
soil. Soil.
The idea of trying to solve economic problems using economics, and if you want to do moral philosophy, then that's fine too. But you have to decide that there's distinct domains of information.
Technically understanding these things that we never did before. So now we know philosophy is a 5-dimensional process. What is a model about chimp and scientists? As a chimp, I have a genetic structure in me that's given to me when I'm born. Certain traits are hereditary, others aren't. I only have 5 dimensions to express myself plus IQ. My 5 dimensions plus IQ give rise to morality in the superstructure
trust society.
And those 5 dimensions of morality can place liberals versus these versus Islam is a crypto-factualist theistic ideology. I mean, of course, beautiful. If you accept what it is, then you should say, but am I not allowed to have English rights? I mean, this is bomb. You have to have that same framing for all of it. And then there's a way out.
I think you thought you've given us some consistency. You blog?
I've started. I want to do some stuff online stuff there. Yeah, I'm always good. I'm following this man. I want to support his Bentley fund. No, but yeah, I've been writing stuff. I'm involved in a party.
Any particular one?
I'm trying to help Andrew Waters.
Again, one has to look at the problems facing. Certainly, the Brexit one is the current imminent problem.
Urgent.
But in terms of the longer term, the way forward, if you haven't decided that Andrew Waters seems to be pretty much on point, you haven't given the situation a thought.
No. I don't have any particular. I'm ideologically promiscuous. So my good friend is the AFD member of Parliament for Germany. It is these multiple movements, be them streams of consciousness and the next political narrative, feeding populist national parties, and then together defending the West.
The whole yellow jacket thing,
all of them
spreading.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the Fox thing in Spain. Just
all of it, someone being classification, this is all pointing to that corpuscular counter-Reformation movement that says we need to stop what's happening, retreat backwards, consolidate with camp, and defend the West, which involves defending the white genetic cluster, involves all these things. And from that, we will make peace. Because if you look at the maps and you look at the data, it's crystal clear. Right? We are 8 billion chimps. We're all chimps. 6 million years ago, we were chimps. Now there's 8 billion of us, and by 2050, we stabilize at 10 billion, and the population is stable. In that 10 billion population, what does it look like? 0.8 billion, only 800 million are whiteys. Whiteys have 2.5 billion people who are black, sub-Saharan African and Muslim heading to them. Half the board is India and China, who don't have any interest in liberal ideas of immigration, except, you know, so you have a global conflict stage that says, by 2050, here's a steady state. What matters to you in that? Right. So, right now, whiteys outnumbered.
I don't remember. Oh, no, you don't know them.
That's it, President.
Remember, I did an interview.
Collapse of the gender relationship. There are no white babies because of white female rights, because of the liberal erosion. You don't have strong white nuclear families.
Yeah, Ralph, this is sort of round it off there. Well, we have to round it. You can carry on talking.
Oh, thanks, man.
We've got it. We've got it. Point is, we've got to start marching down now. So.
It's
good to see you again, as always.
How come you ain't going on the march? Why? Why are you going on the march?
I'm not going to march.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I've been to lots of marches before, but I feel most of the consequential reactions will be here in Speaker's Corner. People know others are going to march and be coming around. And the true diversity of London, my boys, my black, my white, my Muslim, we're all here.
Okay.
They're going to come here. Never go to them, man. Let them come to you.
Cool, bro.
Solve the man. See you. / Bentley Font. Peace.
Respect.
We've got to go down to the march.
Well,
It's an absolute pleasure.
every other week, my colleagues and I.
James is not excited to go. He's like,
I'm
having a twitch and stuff. It's not.
It's chilly, you know.
Where's Tiger? Where's Tiger? Where's Tiger?
Yeah, we're not sure. He said he was arriving later on, I think.
Yeah.
But I've not heard from him.
He ain't got no interest on going on the march with you, sir.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Not today. So I'll just give him a
Kids are coming, you know, just do the right thing.
Well, if I weren't standing here on
I don't smoke.
I would be therapy.
I'm good at two shoes. I do everything perfect.
Mistakes going to be the first day when you crash the Bentley.
And look how they changed the world, so hopefully we can do the same. History go again. Yeah.
What's your name, by the way? We haven't met.
It's this was an interesting summer. The British public have been trying to strangle the
You say, man, you going? Yeah.
I'm pumped up. You're pumped up. You want to go? I was telling Leo, man, they're going to come here at the end because the full diversity is right here, right?
No, they got the Christmas carols at 4. They'll come back.
Sorry, CV. Yeah, he's going to be down in about half an hour, roughly speaking.
Okay. So he's not going to.
We usually meet up with here.
He's not going to the march, no.
No, I don't think so. I doubt it.
I might roll up there still.
I'm going to roll up. Why am I
I'm
going
gonna go to the march, yeah. I'm gonna walk with you. Still, I'm gonna come up, man.
Evolutionary government, absolutely.
How long are you staying there for?
Bring it back home. Bring the power back home.
Yeah, I don't want to be the only.
To the local level.
I don't need the only man on there. I want to catch some views though. Yeah. I'm gonna lock off this stream. I'm gonna lock back on when I join the march. Still. Brexit business.
I was going to come this morning, yeah, with high vis and